following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. This is Comfortably Zoned Radio, and it's time for Dodgers baseball, a tale of two cities from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. My name is Peter Trunk, and as always, my co-hosts are Ron Rabinovitz and Robert Cole. Tonight's show, we have a special guest. We're going to talk about Don Newcomb, and who passed away, sadly passed away 2 days ago. He was a stalwart, the ace, if you will, of the Brooklyn Dodgers staff for many years. And I'd like to start off by saying that Don Newcomb was the third black pitcher to appear in a major league game. The first two were Dan Bankhead, who was a Dodger, and Satchel Paige. He, Don Newcomb, was the first black major league pitcher to appear in an all-star game. That happened in Ebbets Field in 1949. He won Rookie of the Year award, he won Cy Young award, and he won a Most Valuable Player award. He's the only player to win all three of these awards plus a World Series championship ring. While pitching for the Newark Eagles at Rupert Stadium in Newark, where I also pitched, by the way, against the Baltimore Eli Giants in May of 1944, Newcomb faced a batter called Roy Campanella for the Eli Giants. Newcomb was instructed to knock Roy down with the first pitch. He threw it high and tight, but not high and tight enough as Campy hit a home run off him, and that was the first time they met on a baseball field. Campy and Newk signed with the Dodgers later on and were both sent to Nashua, and they played for the Nashua Dodgers. Jackie Robinson met privately with Campanella and Newcomb to give them the Branch Rickey speech before they took the train to Nashua. If you don't know what the Branch Rickey speech is, you're listening to the wrong program anyway, but it was, you have to go up there, fellas, and you have to succeed because everyone's watching you. This is important. Newcomb pitched in Nashua and drove the team bus. And in 1949, after his sensational rookie season with the Dodgers, in the wintertime, he was a volunteer fireman back in New Jersey, and he was a wrestling coach for high school wrestling. That's all I have on Don Newcomb for now. I'm going to turn it over to Robert Cole. Robert, do you have anything about Don Newcomb?
Yeah, Peter. Just want to dispel, what a lot of people said about Don during his career, that, he wasn't tough enough and he couldn't win the big game, which is really total hogwash. People just remember the couple of negatives. 1949 World Series, Game 1. They remember that he gave up a home run in the bottom of the ninth to Tommy Heinrich. They don't remember that he pitched 8 scoreless innings going into that ninth inning, made one bad pitch. 1950, people remember he threw the home run in the 10th inning to Dick Sisler that cost the Dodgers the pennant. What they don't remember is all the games he had to pitch down the stretch, including in September 6th of that year. He started and won a complete game in the first game of a doubleheader, came back out and started the second game, pitched 7 innings, a game which the Dodgers won to sweep the doubleheader. Yes, you heard me right. He started both games of a doubleheader, pitched a total of 16 innings in that one game. Again, we go to 1951. All people remember is that he couldn't finish the deal in the Game 3 of the playoffs against the Giants. He had to come out in the ninth. What they don't recall is all the games that he pitched, starting and relieving, going down the stretch, including the weekend in Philadelphia, starting and winning on Saturday, coming in relief on Sunday, and then coming back a couple of days later and trying to finish the deal against the Giants. 1952, 1953, he was in the service, never touched the ball. 1954, when he came out of the service, he had a rough year. He was trying to, find his way back again. 1955, people remember he got roughed up in the first game of the World Series. He won 20 games that year. Hit 7 home runs, had a great season, and his arm was sore towards the end of the year. Again, 1956. all people remember is his couple of bad outings in the World Series. Yet once again, down the stretch, it seemed like every other day it was either him or Sal Maglie starting and winning games when the Dodgers had to. They didn't clinch the pennant until the very last game of the year. So, all this nonsense about he couldn't win the big one is just total hogwash. If anything, he was overused. He was a tired pitcher at the end of each one of those seasons and doesn't deserve the rap that he's gotten from a lot of people.
In 1956, Newcomb won 27 games.
27
Cy Young and the MVP.
27 games he won in 1956. Yep. He was arguably, I know a lot of people who say Mickey Mantle, Don Newcomb in 1956 was probably the best ball player in Major League Baseball, certainly in the National League.
For sure.
27 games
For sure.
He won.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing.
And what you have to remember, too, is he started 294 Major League games. He pitched 136 complete games out of those 294.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now every pitcher in the major leagues over 5 years doesn't, get to that.
Right.
No way.
Right.
In their career, they don't get to that.
Correct. So,
Peter, I'd like to introduce my guest.
Okay, Ronnie Rabinovitz is going to introduce our guest tonight. Go ahead, Ronnie.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Lawrence Perlmutter is a very dear friend of mine, and it's great to have him on the show with us. He works for the Dodgers in the analytical department, and he was with Tommy Lasorda the other day at Dodger Stadium when they got the news about Don Newcomb. Lawrence, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having a great program. It's my honor.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Company and program.
You're very welcome.
Tell us what you know about Don Newcomb, Lawrence.
Don Newcomb, when I started working for the team, Don Newcomb would come into the PR department at least 5 days a week, trying to give us a clinic on how to throw the ball. and this was someone who was already 68 years old, trying to teach us how to throw a curveball.
What a great guy. What did you say, Lawrence?
He loved the fans.
Yes, he did love the fans, and they loved him.
He would come out early and show fans how to throw his pitch.
Huh.
Even at his late age, he was still doing that.
Isn't that great? He had his big hat on.
Yeah, every day he had a cap on.
And dressed to the nines. A real gentleman.
Yep.
Real gentleman. I heard a story that, he was a roommate with Jackie Robinson for a couple of years. And he also was very upset the way the African Americans were treated. He had a little anger issue about that. And he got into the booze and he had some problems, but he turned himself around, and he was a real inspiration for kids and adults, ball players who had addictions. He worked very hard on that, and I give him so much credit.
Steve Howe.
Yes, he did, didn't he? Yeah.
Yes, he did. He went down to Vero Beach the day that Steve Howe was sent back down, and he said to him, "You better turn yourself around now before it's too late." Uh-huh. And luckily, Steve did come back for a while.
Yeah. He was such a great guy. He was the head of the player development, or what was it? No.
Community relations, I think.
Community relations
at that point. Yeah.
Right. Wonderful man. Wonderful.
Lawrence,
man.
let me ask you a question or two. When you spoke with Don Newcomb, did he revel in his baseball stories, or in his beating the alcohol problem stories? Which took precedence?
Actually, he went back to his alcohol days during his early days of baseball. And he would revel on that all the time. Like he was leading, the Dodgers had an organization called Dare Kids to Stay Off Alcohol. He was the one who ran that program.
Wonderful.
Maury Wills says that he saved his life.
That is the true fact.
Do you have any incidentals about that story, about the Maury Wills story? I heard that Maury Wills had himself locked in his house with all the lights out and wouldn't answer the door, and Newcomb wouldn't leave. Newcomb stayed at the door until he opened the door. It took hours and hours.
From what I heard, he actually stayed for a week right outside the door.
All right.
And he was doing a vigil. He would only leave for about 5 minutes every day, and he would stay outside that door.
And then what happened? Did he let him in finally?
He finally let him in, but he threw a bottle at him.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, he was drunk.
Yeah.
He was dead drunk.
Wow. He was such a good guy. He really was so well respected.
There was a weekend. There was a Dodger weekend in New Jersey in 2007, and on Saturday they had the Brooklyn Dodgers there, and on Sunday they had the Los Angeles Dodgers there, and it was sort of like, the best way I can describe it is like a card show. It was not a card show, but it was the best way I can describe it to you and the audience would be, it'd be like a card show where you go in, you get in line, you get autographs, you talk to the guys that were there. I spoke with Ralph Branca. I spoke with a whole bunch of guys. I had my picture taken with a whole bunch of guys. Wayne Terwilliger, Steve Garvey, Oral Hershiser, you name it, everybody, all the guys were there. And Newcomb was there. And I spoke with Newcomb. He wasn't, all the Dodgers were sitting down at they had these tables all lined up along the room. And all the Dodgers, the former Dodgers, were sitting behind there, and their name was on a plaque behind them. And you would get in line, and you would speak with them a little bit. They would sign your ball or your bat or your yearbook or your cap, whatever you wanted, like that. And Newcomb didn't do that. Newcomb walked around the room. Big Don Newcomb just walked around the room, slowly walking around, mingling with the fans, talking, and I'll never forget this. I spoke to him, and I said to him, I'm a big, big Brooklyn Dodger fan, and I remember how well you could hit. And we always had a problem. The Dodgers always had a problem with their left fielder, and I was wondering if anyone ever approached you to play left field and actually get into the lineup every night. And he said no, never approached him, anything like that. And then he told me about he was the first former Major League Baseball player to sign on in Japan. And he played in Japan. And when I got home, I looked up the record in 301 at-bats. I think he played for the Dragons. Don't quote me on that. But in 301 at-bats, he hit a dozen home runs. He hit 12 home runs over in Japan.
He was a great hitter. Great hitter.
Yeah, he was a hell of a hitter. And one last thing that impressed me no end, and I remember it like it was last week. After I had run out of things to talk to Don Newcomb about, I didn't want to bug him, and I didn't want to bore him or anything like that. But but I noticed that he would go over. I watched him, and he would go over to the janitor, who was just about the only other black guy in the room. There might have been 2 or 3 out of 250 guys that were there. and he would go over and talk to the janitor. Of course, I wasn't brash enough to go over and eavesdrop, but he actually was talking to him, and I could tell by the way he was talking to him that he was asking him, how's your job? What do you do? How long you been here? How's your family? Do you live around here or whatever? He actually engaged the janitor in a conversation, and that really impressed me. I said, here's a class act right here. Who ever would think about looking at the janitor or talking to the janitor, and yet Don Newcomb took the time to do that, and even though he was very friendly with all the fans and signed all the things that you wanted him to sign, he took the time to talk to that one black guy, and it really, really impressed me. I thought it was great. I really did.
Great.
In fact, that was one of the highlights when I came back and told all my friends about, I met this guy, I met that guy, and when I talked to Ralph Branca, we talked about Bobby Valentine. I talked about his family. Bobby Valentine was his son-in-law. And we talked about Bobby Valentine managing over in Japan. I had great conversations with all these guys. Twilliger told me when he was third base coach for the Senators and Ted Williams was the manager that Twilliger, was actually calling the hit and run, the bunt, the steal, etc. He was the manager, and that Ted was just a figurehead. And very interesting stuff. But the one thing that I kept on telling all my friends was Newcomb was hanging out with the janitor. I thought that was great. He didn't think that I'm a big star and you're just sweeping up around here. He didn't think like that at all. Not at all. Not even a little bit. And that impressed me. It really did. It really did. Lawrence, let me ask you another question. When you heard about his demise, when you heard about his death, Ronnie says that you were with Tommy Lasorda. What were you doing, if you don't mind me asking, what were you actually doing with Tommy Lasorda at the time?
We were actually setting up an analytics clinic for the day. We were going to be bringing in some new kids for analytics.
Okay.
And these kids were coming from a high school where Don Newcomb actually spoke a week before.
Okay.
And when we heard, it was as if someone dropped a glass bottle off the top of Dodger Stadium.
Mm.
It had everybody in pieces.
Huh. Wow. Well, he was loved there, and he was there so much. Unbelievable. Yeah.
So, Lawrence, do you go to Dodger Stadium every day? Is that your job?
Since I'm in the analytics department, I have been there every day, except for recovering from a car accident I was in.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. But
I mean, on a normal day, barring any injuries from a car accident or anything else, barring every day, you get up in the morning and that's where you go to work, Dodger Stadium?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's exciting. That's exciting. Do you stick around for the games, or you're too tired from your work during the day? Do you actually stick around at night for the game?
I'm there the whole time because we have to go through every single analytic number throughout baseball, and we have to check the new analytics of the pitching of that night. So my days are 15-hour days.
Who did you answer to, Lawrence? Andrew Friedman?
Actually, I was answering to Tommy Lasorda and Andrew.
Okay. All right.
Wow.
You know, the rumor.
That's cool.
The rumor around Dodgerville, and Ronnie and Robert can back me up on this. The rumor for the last couple of years was that Dave Roberts wasn't really calling the shots in the dugout, that he was getting, the numbers and the whatever from the front office on who to play, who to pinch hit for, what pitcher to bring in, how long to stay with a certain pitcher and stuff during the game. Is that true?
Yes, it is. He had only control of maybe 5% of all the games in the last 3 years.
Wow.
And
that's not
by the game.
That's really
wow.
something.
All I'm going to say is wow, because I don't want to step on anybody's feet here, but I think you know what I mean by wow. I mean, why have a manager? You just have a telephone down there and have a guy answer it. Whatever, I don't know.
It goes back.
Have a push button.
I'm going to answer one piece of this that you were asking about. Do you remember
Sure.
the situation when Bobby got caught for cheating? This was with the Mets.
When who got caught cheating?
Do you remember when Bobby was managing the Mets?
Bobby Valentine.
Bobby Valentine, yeah.
Yeah.
And he got thrown out.
Correct. And
he came back with a fake mustache. Right.
Right. Guess what he did? He actually had an analytics guy right behind the dugout who was on a walkie-talkie with him.
Huh.
So he was that's how far back analytics went for him.
Right.
But he also did that in the minor leagues also, which nobody knew about. And he was actually answering things because Don Newcomb actually gave him some of the idea of how to do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Lawrence, you were saying that Newk was showing up at the Dodger Stadium quite a bit, even recently.
He was there, yeah. The day before my surgery, back on January 5th, he was there right as a daisy.
Huh. And he was contributing to your analytics stuff?
Correct.
Okay. See, that's something I was not aware of. You know, I know he did a lot in the public relations realm, but I didn't realize he was, involved with the analytics and the day-to-day doings of the Dodgers.
Operation? Yeah.
It sounds as if guys' jobs bled or bleed into other categories too. I mean, it's not just a strict, like you're not going down one hallway. I think they ask. If you have a guy like Don Newcomb that you can ask a question, or a guy like Tommy Lasorda, you can ask a question. Those guys between them, what do they have? 100 years of baseball knowledge. Right. I mean, you'd be a fool not to ask. But it does surprise. I can tell by Robert Cole's reaction, and if you can't tell by mine, I'm going to tell you, I'm surprised. I'm not going to say stunned, but I'm semi-shocked that a public relations guy would be involved in the statistical analysis, and a bit disappointed, I must admit, on the air, a bit disappointed to actually find out that it's the truth that Dave Roberts wasn't unfettered, his own man 100%. It's disappointing to me as a fan.
No, because if you go ahead, guys.
Yeah, he's not the only one. I mean, it's running rampant in the major leagues now. I mean, one of the few teams that didn't until this year embrace analytics was the Mets.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
interesting.
It's a different game. It's a different game today.
Lawrence, what do you think the Dodgers are going to look like this year?
A very interesting group, unless they make that key trade that everyone's talking about right now. Jack Peterson going to Chicago for Abreu and 2 other players.
That's the rumor.
Wow, that'd be great.
That's the rumor. There's also another rumor. You're not going to see Corey Seager at shortstop until, I don't know, May 30th or something, or May 15th. Or
he won't be.
I don't know. I saw him taking ground balls on the video. on Dodger Nation video, taking ground balls. Every ball he caught, every ground ball he caught, he just dropped the ball. He didn't flip it, he didn't throw it, he didn't do anything to it. Then there's a picture of him walking around with a contraption on his right arm that looked like he had lost his right arm, and that this was like he was X-Man or something, or he was some sort of robot. It doesn't look good. I don't see him going into the hole at shortstop and making that throw to first base. I don't see it. Just don't see it. Justin Turner's getting older. Kershaw can't break 92 miles an hour. I don't know. I'm a big Dodger fan. I think they'll win the division, but they ain't going anywhere unless they add some stuff. They got to add. They got to add Kluber. They got to add all kinds of stuff. My opinion. My opinion. That's all.
Wait one sec, guys. They're actually saying that they might move Max to shortstop.
Max
Muncy to shortstop.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's gonna look like a beer softball game. Max Muncy at shortstop.
Yeah.
Max Muncy at best is a DH in the American League. Maybe a first baseman twice a week. Second baseman, that's a dream. Shortstop, that's a joke. Max Muncy cannot play shortstop on any level in Major League Baseball. I'm sorry.
If I were to this team right now, I would actually put Kiki at shortstop to start the season.
Yeah, well, okay. You got a bat there and a glove. You know, Kike is one of those players, though. You know, he's sensational when he plays 3 times a week. When he plays 7 days a week, you start to see all the negatives. He's not an everyday player. Again, all of this stuff that's coming out of my big mouth is opinion. But I think I share it with a whole bunch of other Dodger fans. I don't know. And, you know, I'm worried about Kershaw. He's been bending. When is it going to break? He throws 91 miles an hour. It's not going to do it. He threw 388 curveballs last year. This year he'll throw 1,000 if he starts all the time. If he's not on the they call it the injured list now. They don't call it the DL anymore, disabled list. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. Ronnie, Robert, and Lawrence. I don't see the Dodgers being very successful this year, although they probably will win the division by default. The other teams are horrible, except for Colorado. Colorado got a shot, I guess. I'm not too sure about their pitching, though.
Hey, Lawrence, let me ask you a quick question. The Dodgers picked up a free agent shortstop, Daniel Castro. What do you know about him?
Daniel is actually a young kid who he had decent numbers in his early days, but he's still very raw at shortstop.
Okay. Because you know, looking at things, he's about the most advanced of anybody in the system right now.
For that position,
but only
they got
tell us on that.
They got 2 red-hot catchers, Ruiz and Smith.
Are they going to get Harper?
2 red-hot catchers, but they're too young.
There's no way they should go after Harper.
No.
There's no way you go after him and give him the guaranteed money that he wants right now. He wants a guaranteed 8th year now.
Huh.
There's no way you're going to have a guaranteed 8th year of a 10-year deal. You're killing yourself.
Right.
And his numbers he wants right now are 555. 555.
Huh. Wow.
What is he asking for now? What is Harper asking for?
As of right now, the last numbers we saw as of 2 days ago, he wants 10 years, 555. He wants 8 years guaranteed, and he wants a vesting option for 9 and 10.
when you say 555, are you actually saying $550 million?
Correct. Plus increases throughout the years.
Wow.
No way. Absolutely no way. He will get more than Machado, but he's not getting 555. He'll get 305 or something like that. He'll sign.
The only person who could possibly get numbers like that would be Mike Trout.
No.
Yeah, and even Mike Trout's not going to make $55 million a year. There's no way.
Worth that.
Absolutely no way. Not in our lifetime.
No.
Not in our lifetime. Not going to happen. Anyway, what's the deal with the Brooklyn out at Dodger Stadium? Last time I was at Dodger Stadium, there's all kinds of Brooklyn Dodger pictures and statues and all that stuff. Do you, on your way to your office, Lawrence, do you see all those Ebbets Field and Brooklyn Dodger memorabilia?
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
but I can't.
I know. I was shocked when I went there.
But it's going to be interesting to see if all that stays there, or if they're possibly moving that to secondary Dodger Stadium.
To where?
Because they're thinking secondary Dodger Stadium back in Vero Beach.
Okay.
Because they want to use that as home base of the stadium.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So Vero Beach. Who's
Yeah.
on Vero Beach now?
Still
right
called
now,
Dodger Town.
Convo Park. Go ahead.
It's still called Dodger Town.
Correct.
Yes.
But Convo
Yes.
Park is the one who principally owns that right now.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
And that was never. You remember, guys, how they said they were going to be shuttering it? This was a number of years ago.
Yes.
And Chanaho Park, Peterson, and a few others actually paid to keep it open. And they really, now they want to make that Brooklyn East.
Really? Huh. You're close to
Robert
Peter
Cole.
Valley, aren't you?
Robert Cole, have you ever seen Don Newcomb pitch live?
Oh, yes.
I did.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. My father used to take me to a lot of Saturday afternoon games, and it seemed like almost every Saturday Newk started.
Uh-huh. I used to go to a lot of Jersey City Roosevelt Stadium games, and it seems like he almost started every one of them there.
Yeah. Back in those days, the starting pitcher warmed up in front of the dugout.
Right.
Right.
Newk was 6'4", 220. I mean, what a big, dominating presence he was. He'd be out on the mound, and, to this little guy, he would look like he could almost reach home plate from the pitcher's mound. He looked so good.
Yeah. Pee Wee Reese used to say when he used to rear back, when Newcomb would rear back, I thought he was handing me the baseball.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
At shortstop.
Yeah.
And Stan Musial is quoted as saying the only pitcher he physically feared, was Don Newcomb. Of course, that's because he played on the St. Louis Cardinals, and he didn't have to face Bob Gibson. But that was later, because Gibson was a little bit younger than that. But yeah, he said Newcomb was the only pitcher that struck fear into his heart. The explosive.
Well, there were stories early on too that Newcomb was one of the players that was thought of by Branch Rickey to be the first.
Yes.
But he was so young, and he was a pitcher, and Rickey was concerned that if he lost his temper, things would really get out of hand. So he did it the way he did it, but that's how good he was. Yeah,
he was terrific.
Wow.
I read those stories too, that he had contemplated between the three of them, Campanella, Newcomb, and Robinson, and he came up with the best choice, right, Ronnie?
Yeah, absolutely. He sure did.
The greatest. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he was the greatest.
He did.
He was.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Well, you know something? I think it's time to wrap up the bowl game here. Let's call it a night. I want to thank our guest, Lawrence Perlmutter. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing some stories with us about Dodger Stadium in general and Don Newcomb in particular. I'd like to thank Robert Cole down in Florida and Ronnie Rabinovitz out in Minnesota.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, very much, and I bid you all a good night.
Good night, everybody. Good night. Bye-bye.
The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.